why Discoms is a classic case study. For the longest time, we've been hearing that Indian Discoms are in losses. And these are not losses worth 100 crores or 200 crores. We're talking about thousands of crores. In fact, the last time I checked, I think it was somewhere around 38,000 crores or 40,000 crores. So we have coal. We are getting electricity at an affordable rate. How are Discoms in losses?
So interestingly, the number is way higher than that. It is around 2% of India's GDP. The
2% of India's GDP
yes,
is what we are losing.
Yes.
Why?
The problem is not somewhere in the demand or the supply. It is in between. So think of it as a water pipeline, right? You are feeding water at one end and you're drawing power at the other end. The leakages in between. And you're unable to detect where the leakages are, and you're just bleeding or you're just leaking energy out of that. And the system is so large that it is impossible to detect without modernizing, without actually having the information on what is happening where. And you don't have even taps. So even if you get to know that there's a leakage at some area, there's no tap that you can regulate sitting over here. So that's another challenge that you face in the grid today.
Are those T&D losses?
Yeah.
The leakage?
Part of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vivek sir, can you throw more light on that? As to why do we have this problem? Like Arvind sir mentioned that we lose 15% of our energy because of T&D losses.
Yeah.
And in China, it's 2 to 3%. Like, why is India so far behind?
So the basic, as Arvind and Ayush were talking about recently, that now the whole ecosystem has changed. Earlier, it was only there's one power producer, they are consumers, and the consumer were also the quantity of consumption was less. The mind was ready. 4 hours power will not be there every day. I will go on the street, play around. I'm ready, right? The whole mindset is changing. The power consumption is increasing exponentially. Ganesh, if I ask you, in your home now, earlier it was there in one bedroom, the air conditioner will be there. Now in almost, I'm sure in all your rooms, the air conditioner is there.
Yeah.
You must be using an EV now, because that's the new, I recently heard the Atal Setu is saying no charges on an EV if you use that, right? So people are transitioning to that, right? So if you see the airports coming up, what are airports? They are power guzzlers, right? We see data centers. Now, Ayush was mentioning that 99% of power will go to the AI. So that's the whole thing's happening. So now we have producers actually everywhere, right? The government was not ready. Actually, nobody was ready in the world, right? Nobody thought that the solar production, especially solar, can be at any home, can have a 10 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt at their home. And in home, the power consumption is not there because everybody goes to school, the offices. And now what to do with that power? So Modi ji, the government, has done a great job in getting this solar into the country. And they're working very hard. Today, practically the solar production, the cost in India is among the cheapest in the world, which is actually helping the GDP to grow. Because if we want the GDP to grow the country, then the power has to be there. And the power has to be rightly available, plus rightly used. It cannot be wasted. As we understand from electronics that once power is produced, if it is not stored or if it's not used, it's gone. It's not like, it's a perishable item, right? It's gone, right? So now when we see, BESS coming in, the battery energy storage system coming in, right? Where companies like us, when we have power production on the rooftop solar we have in our plant, like we have 10 megawatt right now. If we are not consuming power, we can store the power or we can supply to the grid. So that's why the grid modernization of maybe having smart meters or maybe having SCADA system built in, all those things are very important to ultimately help the Indian economy to reach to the dream which we have of 2047. That's where I'm coming from.
Correct. Ayush, could you please lay down the entire supply chain of power and help me understand how is power delivered to the households of India all the way from the production of coal?
So the start of the supply chain is the manufacturing unit, which we call generation over here. So you have Coal India extracting coal and then feeding it to thermal power plants. The thermal power plants in turn then produce energy. This energy is then, so what happens is the energy has to be evacuated from the source to be taken to the destination, which is the consumers like us on the grid, right? This is done by transmission Transmission steps up the power so that the losses are minimized. Take it from the source to the demand. And then from the demand side, the distribution jobs come in. Distribution role is to actually distribute power to every consumer, see how much a consumer has consumed, bill it accordingly, and then do the collection. This is where the distribution comes in. So the consumer has an option to buy power either from the distribution companies, or they have the power to buy power directly from a factory, directly from a generating plant, right? That is where these trading companies like we have IEX and PXIL coming in the picture. So this is how, if you look at the complete value chain of the energy flow through.
So first comes Coal India, then we go to power generation, then power transmission happens, and then power distribution happens, and then we have the traders, right? So Discoms, if I'm not wrong, fall where power distribution happens.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sir. Hi guys, if you loved watching this clip and if you want to do a deep dive into the podcast, we've mentioned the link in the description. So click that link, watch that podcast and take notes. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more clips.